It all started with a single scroll appearing in the world, talking about a legendary hidden power. Every set of eyes immediately turned toward Mount Heng, where the martial arts of the great Ya were supposedly concealed. There were even whispers about a secret weapon the eccentric master had left behind for whoever could find it. A crow takes flight as the long-dormant mountain finally begins to stir from its slumber. Rumors say the entire Murim is about to be thrown into chaos once again. Suddenly, a massive beam of light rips straight through the sky from the very peak of the mountain. The mountain face itself can't handle the pressure and starts splitting wide open. A dark, gaping hole is carved right into the side of the massive cliff. Boulders come crashing down as the whole summit is rocked by the explosion. A thick cloud of dust kicks up, hiding whatever is finally emerging from that cave. Through the haze, a single silhouette slowly begins to take shape. A sharp blade glints in the sunlight for the first time in 10 long years. After a decade of isolation, Dan Hyungwoo finally steps out from his mountain prison. He just stands there for a second, silently taking in the world he'd almost forgotten. He looks up and realizes he'd actually forgotten that the sky was supposed to be blue. The decades spent in that hole really did a number on him. He can't even remember his life before the cave. He stares down, lost in thought, knowing he needs to hold onto any memory he has left. Because his entire drive now is focused on one thing, getting revenge no matter what. His very first memory starts with Ya standing in front of them all. The old man had rounded up 100 orphans, promising they'd be the ones to save the world in 10 years. Dan Hyungwoo was just one kid in a sea of faces, with no idea what he was in for. He can still remember that chilling look in the master's eyes when he demanded absolute obedience. They were told to enjoy their last bit of rest because the real martial training would start the next morning. Most of the kids were shaking in their boots, but Hyungwoo, being an orphan with nothing left to lose, made him fearless. Then Ya dropped the bombshell. He was sealing the entrance off with a rock cliff. He smirked, making it clear that once they were in, no one was getting out, and no one was coming to save them. From that point on, their lives became a strictly regulated ordeal of endless training. The very first thing they had to master was their breathing, practicing the 3 talents mystic art. Then it moved on to sword techniques, teaching them how to strike with lethal precision. Every single movement, even the way they walked, was strictly controlled under the master's instruction. 3 years later, the master summoned the survivors to the main hall again. Dan Hyungwoo looks completely different now, older, sharper, and way more intense. Ya points to a set of massive stone doors and tells them all to enter without fail. He claims this is the only way they'll prevent a global disaster and reach the realm of the martial god. The group doesn't have much of a choice, so they start filing into the dark room. Hyungwoo leads the pack, his eyes fixed on whatever horror is waiting for them in the dark. He knows deep down that this hellish place is where the real nightmare begins. Ya just watches them go, wearing a satisfied grin as the heavy doors start to creak. The heavy stone doors slam shut, sealing them in the pitch-black depths of the cavern. They follow his commands blindly, training over and over again in the dark. The cavern air is filled with condensed chi, which helps their martial arts advance at a terrifying rate. But eventually, that energy becomes too much to contain, and even the space around them starts to warp and twist. As if the space warping wasn't enough, things took a turn for the worse when something started crawling out of the darkness. The kids watched in pure terror as these massive, skeletal nightmares appeared right in front of them. There were serpents and monsters with glowing red eyes that didn't look like anything from this world. The creatures didn't waste any time, tearing into the group as soon as they arrived. Looking back, Dan Hyungwoo realized that was the very day the gates of hell officially opened for them. He shouted for everyone to raise their swords, knowing it was either fight or die. From that point on, every single day was a horrific bloodbath as they tried to fend off the constant attacks. Hyungwoo threw himself into the fight, his strikes growing more desperate with every monster he cut down. It was a never-ending cycle of training and killing, pushing their bodies way past the limit. Their lives became a relentless struggle for survival, where one mistake meant becoming monster food. Hyungwoo eventually mastered everything Chinji-ya taught them, from the three talents sword techniques to the footwork. But by the time he perfected those arts, he was the only survivor left standing amidst a mountain of bones. He can still see his friend Aksege's bloody face, telling him with his final breath to just survive. Back in the present, he stands under the warm sun, finally hearing the name he'd almost forgotten, Dan Hyungwoo. He makes his way into the city of Changsha, a place bustling with life that feels completely alien to him. He stops in front of the green cloud pavilion, lured in by the smell of something other than damp cave air. The place is packed with people eating and talking, a normal scene that he hasn't seen in a decade. Hyungwoo pushes his way inside, his ragged appearance drawing a few stares as he looks for a seat. Across the room, Jo Seolyun, the daughter of a powerful lord, happens to catch sight of him. She's immediately struck by something strange about him, her eyes fixed on the mysterious newcomer. She nudges her brother to look, pointing out that the guy is carrying a bare blade without even a scabbard. It's a weird sight for a warrior, especially since the sword itself looks like it's seen some serious action. Her brother, Jo-in, agrees that the blade looks exceptional, but wonders what kind of person would carry it like that. Meanwhile, Hyungwoo finally gets a bowl of noodles placed in front of him. He just stares at it for a moment, realizing it's been 10 years since he's seen a bowl of proper food. He takes a bite, the simple flavor hitting him harder than any monster's strike ever did. To him, the noodles are so good they practically melt away the moment they hit his tongue. Around him, the restaurant carries on with its business, oblivious to the man having a life-changing meal. Jo Seolyun is still watching him from her table, unable to shake the feeling that there's more to him than meets the eye. She wonders why this random stranger is troubling her thoughts so much. Hyungwoo finishes his meal and tells the waiter it was delicious, truly meaning it. The waiter beams at the compliment, glad to see a customer satisfied with the house specialty. Then he drops the bill, telling Hyungwoo that his meal comes out to exactly 5 pun. Hyungwoo just repeats the word money back to him, looking completely lost. The restaurant goes quiet as Hyungwoo realizes he completely forgot that people actually pay for things out here. He looks up, the reality of his situation finally sinking in. He's broke and has no way to settle the tab. The waiter's smile vanishes instantly, telling him that if he's eaten the food, he absolutely has to pay up. Hyungwoo just gives it to him straight. He doesn't have a single coin on him. The waiter scoffs, telling him that if he's going to be bold enough to eat for free, he can at least hand over the sword at his waist. Hyungwoo's expression turns cold as he tells the man there's no way he's giving that up. He explains that the sword was a gift bought with the life of his very last friend. The waiter loses it, screaming that Hyungwoo must have intended to scam them from the very beginning. The tension in the restaurant reaches a breaking point as the rowdy crowd closes in on Dan Hyungwoo. Jo-in, the young noble, jumps to his feet in alarm, calling out to his sister as she steps forward. Jo Seolyun holds out a heavy pouch of coins, her voice calm as she asks the waiter to stop his shouting. "I shall pay in his stead," she says, her kind eyes offering a sudden lifeline to the penniless traveler. The waiter is stunned by the noblewoman's generosity, while Hyungwoo simply stands there, his expression unreadable. The two of them share a long, silent moment as the rest of the room falls into a hushed whisper. Hyungwoo wonders why this girl would bother paying for a complete stranger. Up close, Seolyun is struck by the peculiar quality of his gaze. They are the eyes of someone seeing the world for the very first time. He remains silent for a beat too long, the social graces of the outside world clearly lost on him. Without another word, Hyungwoo turns on his heel and starts to walk out of the pavilion. Seolyun is left blinking in surprise, fully expecting some kind of acknowledgement for her help. The restaurant staff and patrons alike are floored by his sheer audacity as he heads for the door. That," Seolyun stammers, her frustration mounting as she watches him leave. She can hardly believe someone would just walk away without even a single word of thanks. Jo-in joins his sister, scowling at the back of the retreating swordsman. "A wandering swordsman who knows no gratitude," he mutters, noting that the man doesn't even seem to possess any inner force. Despite his lack of manners, Seolyun's thoughts remain fixed on the weapon he carried. She realizes with a start exactly what she saw in that brief encounter. The sword was no common piece of iron. Even at a single glance, it was clearly a famed blade of incredible quality. I need to follow him at once, she decides, worried that walking around with such a blade and no scabbard will only invite more trouble. Outside in the fresh air, Hyungwoo stops and looks up at the sky, his conscience finally catching up with him. That girl, since she paid for my meal, I should have given her my thanks, he thinks, his brow furrowing. The green cloud pavilion stands tall under the bright sun, a hub of activity in the heart of the city. Inside, the atmosphere is electric, buzzing with the conversation of countless martial artists. Seolyun looks around the room, noting the sheer prestige of the Murim alliance gathered there. As the daughter of the Jo clan lord, she understands better than anyone the gravity of so many warriors in one place. Jo-in comments on the mobilization, surprised that the alliance leader himself would choose to move personally. Sama Chial, head of the Henan Escort Bureau, explains that both the Sado Alliance and the Green Forest Bandits are converging on Mount Heng. He notes that such a vast number of people would only follow a man of incredible renown. That man is the legendary Chinji Ya, a figure who towers over the history of the martial world. He was a man of extraordinary insight, reputed to have mastered innumerable mechanisms and formations. Even in his later years, his perception of heavenly chi and his martial prowess remained unmatched. Chinji Ya devised a singular method known as the flashing shadow blade, a technique that once shook the entire world. The master's eyes held the secrets of the heavens, his every move a perfect blend of formation and force. He once taught his arts to a mere wandering swordsman, turning an obscure vagabond into an absolute master in just 3 years. That warrior eventually met a miserable end as a public enemy of the Murim, but the legend of his master only grew. Soon after, the great Chinji Ya vanished without a trace, leaving the world to hunt for his legacy. Now, a manual containing his lost arts has been discovered by the Jo clan, and every faction in the world covets it. Sama Chial warns Seolyun to be on her guard, as he has been requested to escort them through these dangerous times. Seolyun listens, but her mind is elsewhere, contemplating the unforeseen events that always seem to unfold in this world. Jo-in is dead set against his sister's idea of following the strange man from the restaurant. He lacks both propriety and courtesy, he argues, convinced that any goodwill shown to such a person would be entirely wasted. Jo Seolyun looks on with a troubled expression, her desire to follow the mysterious man clearly at odds with her companion's advice. Sama Chial supports Jo-in's view, explaining that wandering alone is far too dangerous with the alliance leader's arrival imminent. Seolyun bites her lip, her eyes filled with a lingering curiosity that she cannot quite shake. Very well, I shall abide by your wishes, she eventually concedes, though her heart remains restless. Outside on the city streets, a merchant haggles over the price of his goods with a customer. Nearby, a street performer plays a lively tune on his flute, drawing an appreciative crowd. How peaceful, Dan Hyungwoo thinks, his purple-blue eyes taking in the mundane beauty of daily life. He wanders past the stalls, observing the interactions of common folk who live far from the worries of the Murim. A young boy smiles brightly as a woman pats his head, a simple moment of joy that seems alien to Hyungwoo. Hyungwoo's gaze turns inward as a flood of memories from a far darker time begins to surface. The scene shifts to a nightmare realm where monstrous shadows loom over 2 figures standing back to back. Aksegi, Hyungwoo's red-haired companion, urges him to promise that they will leave this hell and experience everything they missed. If you manage to leave, please visit my home and deliver my words to my father, Aksegi says, his tone grave. Hyungwoo scoffs at the request, telling his friend to survive and tell his father himself. Aksegi lets out a short, hollow laugh before his expression turns into a grim look of determination. Then, do not die, Hyungwoo, he says, the weight of their desperate situation hanging heavy between them. They fight for their lives against a relentless tide of beasts, their swords flashing in the gloom of the cavern. Suddenly, a massive creature lunges at Hyungwoo, Its jagged teeth inches from his face as Aksegi screams a warning. Hyungwoo freezes as the world seems to slow down, the sound of his own heartbeat thundering in his ears. A spray of hot blood paints the ground as Aksegi throws himself into the path of the beast to save his friend. Hyungwoo kneels over his fallen comrade, his voice cracking with a despair that he has never felt before. "Why did you do that? Why instead of me?" he cries, his tears falling onto Aksegi's blood-stained clothes. With his final breath, Aksegi tells Hyungwoo to live on, his last request being for Hyungwoo to tell his father how sorry he is. Hyungwoo stands alone, the silhouette of a man burdened by the sacrifice of the friends who stood beside him. Under a full moon, a lone voice reflects on the 99 lives it took to finally buy his freedom. Dan Hyungwoo looks up at the night sky, his mind full of debt to the brothers he left behind. Standing alone, he vows to his fallen friends that he'll hunt down Chinji-ya and make him pay back every single soul. He turns and walks away, his boots clicking rhythmically against the stone. Lost in his thoughts, Hyungwoo eventually finds himself back at the same building he passed earlier. He stops dead when he notices something unexpected. It's Jo Seol-yeon, the girl who paid for his food, and he realizes he never even said thank you. While watching her, he catches wind of someone nearby ordering their group to rest at the next village before heading to Mount Hang. A whole squad of martial artists in blue robes is already on the move under the cover of night. Hyungwoo watches them from the rooftops, realizing they plan to push through without any rest. With a quick shout of "Yes, sir," the entire group starts sprinting off. Hyungwoo watches them go with a cold, focused expression. He sees Seol-yeon following close behind the main group. It seems she's heading toward the mountains as well. He leaps from the roof, wondering why such a large group is moving toward his old home. He trails them through the night, a silent shadow under the clouds. The group finally pulls over to set up camp at the foothills of Mount Hang. Hyungwoo sticks to the tree line, praying they aren't heading for the exact spot where he emerged. He notices another group trailing them from the shadows and wonders what kind of prize could be worth all this trouble. In the camp, two men talk about the suspicious movements of rival alliances, sensing a storm is coming. Ju Jungchan, the strategist, tries to play it cool and tells his leader not to overthink things. But Dak Go-eun, the alliance leader, can't shake the feeling that his gut is telling him something is wrong. Seol-yeon looks like she's about to drop from exhaustion as she keeps pace. A man named Ping Cheol-yeon notices and tries to be a gentleman, offering to ask for a break. She isn't having it though, telling him to back off and insisting she can handle the trek herself. Suddenly, a massive guy with a purple mohawk steps out of the fog with a nasty grin. It's Seo Hyolgui, and he's finally tracked down the Murim alliance. The Green Forest bandit chief mocks them for trying to hide as his gang surrounds the camp. Dak Go-eun immediately draws his blade and shouts for everyone to prepare for battle. Ju Jungchan realizes they've been cornered by a coalition of rival forces. He knows Seo Hyolgui is a monster on the battlefield and that they're in for a hell of a fight. The bandit chief doesn't wait for a signal lunging forward to let the righteous faction taste some blood. He sends a soldier flying into the air with a single, brutal kick. He grabs another man like a ragdoll, completely ignoring the swords aimed at him. With a high kick, Seo Hyolgui starts cutting a path through the alliance guards. Soldiers are mowed down instantly, coughing up blood as the ambush turns into a bloodbath. The bandits show no mercy, leaving bodies scattered across the forest floor. Amidst the chaos, someone lands nearby, their foot touching down with perfect balance. Seo Hyolgui laughs off the fallen guards as mere small fry, who weren't even worth the effort. Dak Go-eun finally steps in to stop the slaughter, his sword clashing against the bandit's blade. Screaming the leader's name, the chief lunges forward for the kill. The two masters collide in midair, both of them fighting with everything they have. The clash of blades sends sparks flying as Dak Go-eun tries to hold back the bandit chief's overwhelming force. Blood sprays through the air as Seo Hyolgui's men tear through the rest of the alliance guards without a hint of mercy. Dak Go-eun grits his teeth, realizing they're hopelessly outnumbered and losing ground fast. Seo Hyolgui laughs in his face, mocking the desperate leader while claiming that Chinji Ya's secret weapon already belongs to his bandits. High above, Hyungwoo hears the name of the man he's been hunting for 10 years, and his eyes sharpen with a cold fury. He leaps from his hiding spot, descending toward the battlefield like a vengeful shadow. A massive rock shatters as he slams into the earth, the impact sending debris flying in every direction. Go-un stares in absolute shock as the mysterious stranger enters the fray with enough force to level the ground. A massive rock shattered under Hyungwoo's sword strike as he hurled himself into the middle of the massacre. Seo Hyolgui barely has time to react as the newcomer starts decimating his bandit crew with terrifying speed. With that single strike from Hyungwoo, the crowd was all but completely dispersed. He cuts through the chaos like a storm, leaving a path of destruction in his wake. As the dust settles, Hyungwoo stands amidst the wreckage, his eyes glowing with an eerie white light. Go-un looks on, speechless at the raw power he just witnessed. Jo Seol-yoon can barely believe her eyes, staring at the man who just saved them all. The rest of the survivors are equally stunned, frozen in place by the stranger's overwhelming presence. Hyungwoo doesn't waste any time, demanding to know where Chinji Ya is. Go-un is rattled, sensing absolutely no presence from the man standing right in front of him. He thanks Hyungwoo for the help, but wonders why he's looking for Chinji Ya here of all places. The Alliance leader drops a bombshell that leaves Hyungwoo in total shock. The man he's been hunting has been dead for 10 years. The news hits Dan Hyungwoo like a physical blow. The man he spent 10 years planning to kill has been dead for a decade. He can barely process it. All that training and surviving just to find out his target is already gone. His mind drifts back to the friends he lost. He hasn't even begun to pay back the price of their lives. Dead, the one word that renders his entire life's purpose moot. A dark, swirling energy starts leaking out of him as the realization sinks in. The warriors nearby feel it immediately. A heavy, suffocating pressure begins to fill the air. Without him even realizing it, an aura of void pours out from Hyungwoo's body. The Murim Alliance warriors are instantly paralyzed by a crushing sense of desolation and loss. He's spent ages enduring hell for this moment, but now the object of his vengeance is gone. Memories of the blood and the dying whispers of his comrades flood his mind. Their voices scream for him to take revenge for those who died unjustly. The leader of the Hanan Escort Bureau recognizes the energy for what it is, void chi. The bureau leader reaches for his sword, fearing the boy might cause a mass chi deviation if he isn't stopped. But Jo Seol-yoon steps forward, checking to see if Hyungwoo is all right. He looks at the girl. Her kindness is the first piece of humanity he's experienced in years. It reminds him of the friends who gave their lives so he could survive and emerge from the cave. With his revenge denied, he has to find a new path forward. He decides his first step must be finding the families of his fallen comrades. Suddenly, the overwhelming lethargy lifting off the warriors. They can move again. The bureau leader is stunned that the void chi just stopped on its own. He stares at Hyungwoo, wondering what kind of monster he's actually looking at. Seol-yoon approaches him again, her curiosity getting the better of her. She asks if he's searching for someone specific. She tells her uncle that Hyungwoo is the one who saved them from the bandits. Seol-yoon suggests he travel with them until he finds whoever he's looking for. The bureau leader stays silent, considering the proposal. He knows it's hard to refuse a savior, but he worries about how the Murim Alliance will react. He looks at the boy, trying to gauge his temperament. He remembers how easily Hyungwoo slaughtered the bandits. He's dangerously powerful. With their own numbers low, he figures it's better to keep the kid close than let him wander off. He makes his decision and officially gives his approval. He turns toward Hyungwoo to offer him a job. He asks Hyungwoo if he'd be interested in working for the Hanan Escort Bureau. The rest of the escort agency members are shocked. It's quite an offer for a total stranger. Hyungwoo just stares, look completely blank. He doesn't understand the question. Brother Ping chimes in, shocked that Hyungwoo isn't jumping at the chance to join such a prestigious bureau. Hyungwoo admits he has no idea what an escort bureau even is. The group is dumbfounded. Xiaoyun quickly offers to explain the job to him. She describes the role, while her uncle wonders if he's making a massive mistake. Brother Ping looks at him with pure disdain, calling him a bumpkin. He asks his companion if they've noticed anything strange about Hyungwoo. They both focus on the sword. The killing intent coming off that glowing blade is anything but ordinary. Brother Ping and his crony are eyeing Dan Hyungwoo's sword with pure greed. They think a peasant like him has no business carrying such a legendary blade. They decide to play it cool for now, waiting until the alliance leader and the big shots are occupied inside Mount Heng before they make their move. The sun sets over the rugged peaks, casting a golden glow over the dense forests. The group finally arrives at the base of Mount Heng. The bureau leader takes a deep breath, feeling the eerie weight of the mountain. Even his men look visibly nervous. Hyungwoo stands among them, his expression as unreadable as the mountain itself. He stares at the terrain, recognizing the place they've been searching for so desperately. The bureau leader is eager to get his hands on Chinji Ya's secret manuals, but there's one problem: they can't find the damn door. His warriors are crawling all over the rocks, but it's like the cave entrance just vanished into thin air. The leader is getting impatient, considering carving right through the rock, even if it risks damaging the precious scrolls inside. Hyungwoo watches them struggle. He knows the exit he used has collapsed, so he needs to find the original entrance. He closes his eyes, reaching out to sense the faint, lingering chi of his old master. He catches a trace of it. Suddenly, he's on the move, startling the men around him. He moves like a blur, scaling the sheer cliff face with zero effort while the others just watch in awe. With a light tap, he lands perfectly on a high ledge. He stands before a hidden opening, his cape fluttering in the wind. "The entrance is here," he says calmly, gesturing to the dark void. The bureau leader and his strategist are stunned. They can't believe this kid found in seconds what they couldn't find in hours. Hyungwoo stares into the cave, his voice hollow. "This is where I once lived." Jo Seolyun looks at him with genuine concern, while the others just look skeptical. Brother Ping scoffs, thinking Hyungwoo must have lived like a wild animal in these mountains. That's his excuse for why the kid doesn't even have a scabbard for his sword. The bureau leader snaps into action, organizing a search party with his top division heads while the rest secure the perimeter. The warriors shout their acknowledgement in unison. The leader bows slightly to Hyungwoo, acknowledging that they are deeply in his debt. Hyungwoo just warns them, there's nothing of value in there. To him, that cave isn't a treasure trove. It's just a tomb filled with memories of death. A dark, bloody aura seems to flicker around him as he thinks about the horrors he survived. His eyes are cold, reflecting a past that no normal person could ever understand. The bureau leader notices Hyungwoo looks more unsettled than before. He figures it's best to keep the kid out of the cave. He places a hand on Hyungwoo's shoulder, telling him to stay back and let the professionals handle the rest. The search party heads inside, disappearing into the darkness. Hyungwoo watches them go. Now that he knows Chinji Ya is dead, nothing in that cave matters to him anymore. He starts to walk away, his steps light on the rocky ground. Seolyun stops him, still struggling to believe he really lived in such a desolate place. He just gives her a simple nod, his expression blank. Suddenly, Brother Ping and his associate block his path. Their intentions are clearly hostile. Hyungwoo glares back at them. He can sense their malice from a mile away. Brother Ping starts accusing him, suggesting he's a spy for the Green Forest bandits. Seolyun is horrified by the accusation. She tries to defend him, but Brother Ping isn't listening. He thinks the whole saving them thing was just a staged performance. He tells Hyungwoo that if he's truly innocent, he should hand over his sword for safekeeping. He's clearly trying to rob the kid. Ping stares at Hyungwoo, his eyes filled with suspicion and hidden greed. He focuses on the sword. It looks old and worn, but the killing intent it radiates is unlike anything he's ever felt. Hyungwoo looks at the greedy warrior, his voice flat. "You are telling me to hand this sword to you." Brother Ping sports a malicious grin, completely confident in his position. "If you understand, then surrender it now." Hyungwoo doesn't budge. "This sword was entrusted to me by a fallen friend." He thinks of the master he lost. His eyes turn cold and resolute. And I have no intention of passing it to anyone until the day I die. The group is still perched on the rocky slope, the tension between the warriors and Hyungwoo reaching a breaking point. Hyungwoo stands his ground, his hand ready near the hilt of his blade. Ping's smile is predatory. He doesn't think this bumpkin stands a chance against them. Jo Seol-yun looks on with a pained expression, sensing the impending violence. Footsteps crunch on the loose gravel as the warriors begin to reposition themselves. Hyungwoo's eyes narrow, tracking every movement with supernatural precision. He analyzes their formation instantly, one coming from behind to distract, another advancing to pin him down. They're planning to attack together, he observes mentally. In that case. As they lunged, Hyungwoo drops low. I'll duck. And cut them. He prepares to unleash a counterattack that would end the fight in a second. He remains perfectly calm, his violet eyes seeing through their clumsy coordination. Just as he predicted, the two men exchanged a glance, signaling the start of the hunt. They lunged at him from both sides. Then they executed a pincer attack, one striking from the front while the other flanked from behind. One of them continued to threaten Hyungwoo. If you hand that sword over to us right now, you might just save yourself some pain. Hyungwoo's hand tightens on the sword's grip, a dark aura beginning to swirl around him. His eyes flare with an intense, deadly purple light. The situation is about to turn lethal. Stop it! The Murim Alliance leader's roar echoes across the mountain, halting everyone in their tracks. Alliance leader, Brother Ping stammers, his confidence evaporating instantly. The Alliance leader walks toward them, his presence heavy and authoritative. I told you to keep watch. What do you think you're doing right now? Down below, the bureau leader looks up, his face full of hope. Did they find it? Chinjija's secret weapon? The other men whisper, their eyes wide with excitement. But the Alliance leader has seen enough. We're done here, withdraw, he commands. Yes, sir, the warriors shout, falling back immediately. Ping clicks his tongue in frustration as he walks past Hyungwoo. Tusk, you, consider yourself lucky. Seol-yun hurries over to Hyungwoo. Are you okay? She asks, her voice soft with concern. Hyungwoo looks at her truly confused. I don't understand what she means by okay, he muses. Okay, I was worried, she adds with a sigh. She looks relieved to see he isn't hurt. For Hyungwoo, this kind of kindness is a foreign concept. Oh, come to think of it, we don't even know each other's name, she says brightly. I'm Seol-yun, Jo Seol-yun. Hyungwoo meets her gaze. Dan Hyungwoo, he replies. It's the first time he's given his name to anyone in years. Dan Hyungwoo, huh? That's a nice name, she says with a warm smile. One of the men calls out to her. Come on, let's go. We need to get ready to head back. Hyungwoo watches her go, his expression as stoic as ever. And so, the Murim Alliance's expedition to find Chinjija's secret weapon came to an end for the time being. The scene shifts to a bustling city in Hubei province. Rumors are already flying. Have you heard? The Murim Alliance found Chinjija's secret weapon, a man exclaims. Ho-ho, then it's only a matter of time before the Murim Alliance takes over the world. Others are more skeptical. What is that secret weapon anyway? How would we know when the Murim Alliance hid it away? The buzz of gossip is everywhere. The endless rumors about the Murim Alliance began spreading farther and farther, eventually reaching the Murim Alliance main headquarters. Inside, someone slams their fist onto a table in a fit of rage. This is ridiculous, they roar. The Murim Alliance leader shouts in frustration, his fist clenched. No one will believe us, even if we say there's no such thing as Chinjija's secret weapon. He addresses the Murim Alliance Elder Council meeting. Those rumors have crossed Wuhan and are blanketing all of Hubei. You think that's all, Alliance leader? Another elder asks. The Alliance leader looks down, his expression grim. All we found in the cave at Hyungsan was this wooden box, which seems to have been left by Chinjija, along with a letter. A small, ornate box sits on the table before them. He recalls finding the box inside the dark, damp cave, its presence mysterious and unsettling. The box rested atop a letter filled with frantic, jagged handwriting, glowing faintly in the gloom. The elder in green robe studies the parchment. What in the world does this writing mean? He reads a specific name aloud, his brow furrowed in confusion. Blood Demon Being. The letter warns, the Blood Demon Being is a figure who will shake the era, and he seeks to throw the entire Jianghu into chaos. Chinjija wrote that to prevent this disaster, he had raised 100 peerless martial masters, begging the reader to use them to stop the Blood Demon Being. The letter continues, explaining that the yin-yang parasite inside the wooden box is absolutely necessary to control said martial masters. A memory of Chinjija surfaces, his long white hair obscuring his face as he muttered a final warning. Blood Demon Being, you will never get your way. Back in the present, the Alliance leader opens the box, the yin-yang parasite. Inside, a translucent orb glows with a ghostly blue light, containing something dark and writhing. Within the sphere lies a thick, black larva. It's shocking enough that this yin-yang parasite has never been seen before, but there wasn't a trace of the 100 martial masters mentioned in the letter. Another council member looks worried. Are you saying that entire letter is nonsense? The Alliance leader shakes his head. Rather than that, it feels as though there's some force working behind all of this. The Elder in green agrees. There are a few grounds for you to suspect as much, Alliance leader. Firstly, at Hyungsan, it strongly felt like the Green Forest Bandits' true objective. It wasn't Chinjija's secret weapon, but rather harming the Murim Alliance. He recalls the brutal, senseless combat. By the time we arrived at Hyungsan, we couldn't find a single remnant of them, and the fact that a large number of their corpses had already disappeared is proof. In the villages, the people continue to gossip. Then there are the marketplace rumors, which keep on going like a snowball rolling down a mountain. The Alliance leader looks intense. This is clearly a deliberate attempt to draw the Jianghu's whole attention onto the Murim Alliance. Who would do such a thing? The other council members whisper, sweat trickling down their faces. The Elder in green robes has a theory. First, we should suspect the Zhou clan head, the one who brought us the map. At the Murim Alliance headquarters, the leader listens as his subordinate defends the head of the Zhou clan. The leader isn't convinced. With things getting this serious, he wants to send a spy to keep the Zhou clan under constant watch. He stares at a box on his desk, suspecting that even if they aren't the masterminds, they're being played by traitors. Inside that box is a grotesque black worm called the yin-yang parasite, sealed in a glowing orb. Meanwhile, the mood is much louder at the Zhou clan estate, as people announce the return of the agency head. The uncle leads the group through the massive gates after their long journey. Hyungwoo looks around, impressed by the size of the place. It's the biggest house he's ever seen. The uncle turns to him, explaining that he needs to go meet with the clan head immediately. Since he's going to be busy, he decides to take Hyungwoo to the Hanan escort agency first. Hyungwoo just follows along, his expression as blank as ever. Jo Seolyun looks down, feeling bad that she couldn't find him a proper scabbard on their way back. Hyungwoo watches her, thinking that people in the outside world have a weird obsession with scabbards. Seolyun looks at his bare blade, convinced that no normal scabbard could handle the killing intent coming off of it. In her mind, she sees a scabbard shattering to pieces the moment it touches that sword. Hyungwoo confirms he doesn't need one. Seolyun just looks dejected, her hands clasped together. She looks up at him and tells him she's sorry for even suggesting she'd make him one. That one word makes Hyungwoo freeze. He repeats it back to himself, confused. Suddenly, a memory of Aksegi flashes through his mind, lying in the dirt, covered in blood, and whispering those same words as he died. Hyungwoo's face goes cold. He never understood why someone who was dying would spend their last breath saying they were sorry. He looks down at her, his voice dropping as he asks her exactly what she thinks she's sorry for. He gets right in her face and tells her to never say those words to him again. Seolyun is visibly shaken by his sudden anger. She just stammers out that she understands. The uncle breaks the tension by calling out to Hyungwoo, telling him they need to go right now. Hyungwoo turns his back on her without a word and follows the older man. Seolyun stands there alone, wondering if she somehow said the wrong thing. They arrive at the Hanan escort agency courtyard. It's a busy yard filled with workers moving heavy crates. Hyungwoo watches the men working under the lanterns. He realizes these guys are porters, the laborers responsible for carrying all the agency's baggage. The uncle calls out to a guy named Jangchil, announcing that he's brought in a new porter to join the crew. Jangchil, a bulky guy with a headband, pauses his work and grins at the idea of a new recruit. Jangchil tells the boss to leave the kid to him, his smile looking anything but friendly. The uncle looks at Hyungwoo, knowing Jangchil is a bit rough but hoping he'll manage to fit in. He tells Hyungwoo to pay attention and learn everything he can from his new senior. With a quick wave, the uncle wishes him luck and leaves him to start his new job. Jangchil's grin gets even wider. He makes it clear that he doesn't care who brought him in, there are no exceptions for newbies. He looms over Hyungwoo, demanding to know his name while the other workers watch the bullying start. Hyungwoo doesn't look intimidated at all, he just calmly states his full name. Jangchil's face turns red. He's furious that this kid is talking so bluntly without any respect. Hyungwoo looks him up and down, and bluntly observes that he has short limbs and a ridiculous build. The courtyard goes silent as Jangchil explodes in rage, screaming at the top of his lungs. He gets in Hyungwoo's face, asking if he actually wants to die on his very first day. Hyungwoo senses the pure hostility. His gaze sharpens as he shifts back into survival mode. Hyungwoo stares back with a cold, hollow gaze, seriously wondering if he should just cut the guy down right then and there. Jangchil spots the golden hilt and can't believe a new porter is carrying something that looks so valuable. He points a finger, demanding to know why a lowly worker even has a sword in the first place. Dan Hyungwoo doesn't waste any words and just gives him a flat, cold refusal. The bully's jaw drops the second. He feels a wave of pure killing intent hitting him right in the face. He breaks out in a cold sweat and immediately backs off, making a hasty excuse that it's getting too late anyway. Hyungwoo watches him leave, realizing that people are already starting to covet his friend's blade. The other porters start snickering, mocking Jangchil for acting like a big shot, and then running away. Humiliated, he turns and snaps at everyone to shut their mouths and get to bed. The tension in the yard lingers as the workers wrap up their tasks for the evening. One of them leads the way toward the shared dormitory where they'll all be staying. Jangchil keeps his eyes glued to the sword, convinced the new guy is nothing special without it. He grinds his teeth, swearing that he's going to pay back the embarrassment he just suffered. Later that night, the room is quiet and filled with the steady breathing of sleeping men. Jangchil quietly sits up, looking around to make sure the coast is clear. He starts crawling across the wooden floor, trying to be as silent as a snake. He scans the dark room, searching for where the new guy settled down to sleep. Suddenly, his head thumps right into something incredibly solid. He rubs his forehead, wondering why there's a pillar in the middle of the floor that wasn't there before. He looks up and his blood runs cold at the massive silhouette looming over him. Jangchil nearly jumps out of his skin, thinking the guy has been watching him the whole time. But as he gets a closer look, Hyungwoo's face is calm and his eyes are shut. The realization hits him like a ton of bricks. The guy is actually sleeping while standing up. Seeing an opportunity, he decides to reach for the sword anyway while his target is out. But just as he gets close, Hyungwoo's eyes snap open and pierce right through him. Jangchil completely freezes, his body refusing to obey as pure terror takes over. In that split second, the air in the room feels heavy enough to crush his lungs. An overwhelming sense of fear washes over him, deeper than anything he's ever felt. It's the primal instinct of a helpless animal standing right in front of a starving predator. His vision blurs as he sees his own death reflected in those cold, glowing eyes. Trembling and broken, he collapses to his knees and desperately begs for mercy. He ends up tumbling backward, landing hard against the floor in his panic. Hyungwoo is actually just circulating his energy for protection, completely oblivious to the drama. He didn't always have such strange habits when it came to resting. But 10 years of surviving inside that hellish cave changed everything about him. He had to stay on constant alert even while eating, ready for a fight at any second. That's how he forged the habit of sleeping upright while keeping his internal energy on guard. Sunrise eventually breaks over the buildings of the Henan Escort Agency. Hyungwoo lets out a long breath as he finishes his final morning cycle. He looks down and is surprised to find Jangchil lying right there on the floor. The bully wakes up, sees the face from his nightmare, and lets out a terrified scream. He scrambles to his feet and bolts out of the room like he's seen a ghost. Hyungwoo just watches him go, already forgetting the guy's name as he asks about the day's work. Hyungwoo starts his day in the yard, and it's already clear he's not like any of the other porters. He starts moving crates that usually take 4 men to lift, as if they're made of paper. He effortlessly leaps into the air, keeping his balance perfectly while carrying the heavy load. He lands with a light tap, showing off agility that's way beyond his station. With one swift movement, he clears several feet in a single bound. He settles on top of the massive stack, looking down at the work left to do. He asks the other workers if he's doing it right, honestly not sure about the standard. They can only stare up at him in disbelief, confirming that's the job, just not usually done like that. Since it's so easy, he offers to handle the rest of the pile by himself. The veteran porters just tell him to be careful, as crates keep flying onto the carts. Nearby, his coworkers whisper that the new guy is going to steal all their work at this rate. The gossip stops immediately when Jo Seol-yeon enters the courtyard. She's been replaying his words in her head all morning, unable to let them go. She finds Hyungwoo and tries to understand the logic behind his strange request. She wonders what he's been through to make a simple apology so painful to hear. Hyungwoo looks at her, his expression remaining as stoic as a statue. She greets him casually, accidentally using his name without any of the usual formalities. She checks in to see if he's comfortable with the labor, but he's got other things on his mind. She asks him what he actually likes or dislikes in this world. For him, it's simple. He likes peace, and he hates it when that peace is broken. But there's one specific thing that really gets under his skin. He tells her flat out that hearing a friend say they're sorry is the thing he hates most. Seol-yeon's heart skips a beat when she realizes he just grouped her in as a friend. She promises herself she'll never say those words, but the moment is cut short by approaching horses. A group of arrogant-looking warriors rides into the agency courtyard. Leading them is Ping Cheol-yeon, who immediately starts showering Seol-yeon with unwanted compliments. She stays professional, asking why a busy man like him has shown up unannounced. He explains that the Murim Alliance decided to send support to help the escort agency. While Hyungwoo just wants a quiet life, the world of martial arts is moving against him. Far away from the agency, a much darker power is making its move. In a blood-soaked hall, a report is delivered that sounds like a death sentence. 30 elite members of the Heavenly Vigil Corps were slaughtered by a single person. It seems impossible, considering they were strong enough to wipe out entire Alliance divisions. A pale hand with claw-like nails pulls back the heavy curtain in the darkness. The carnage was absolute, leaving the floor covered in the bodies of dead warriors. Not one of the elite fighters survived the encounter with the mysterious attacker. A single red eye glows from the shadows as a voice muses on Chinjija's monsters. The blood demon being reveals himself, wearing a terrifyingly wide, demonic grin. The dark energy in the room feels like a physical weight. The sight of the fallen elite proves that a new player has entered the game. The demon lord orders his follower to investigate every single person at Hyungsan. He's hell-bent on finding the monster who dared to wipe out his elite corps. The atmosphere in the yard grows heavy, as a strange tension hangs in the air between the newcomers and the porters. Jo Seol-yeon looks on with deep concern, sensing the trouble brewing around Dan Hyungwoo. Ping Cheol-yeon, riding high on his horse, doesn't hesitate to shower Seol-yeon with unwanted flattery. But his gaze quickly shifts to the porter standing beside her, his eyes filling with immediate disdain. He can't wrap his head around why a lowly porter would be allowed to carry a sword in public. He scoffs, telling Hyungwoo that if he can't handle a weapon, he shouldn't be holding it in the first place. Seol-yeon explains that these men are from the Rising Dragon Corps, representing the powerful Murim Alliance. She leans in to whisper to Hyungwoo, telling him not to let the arrogant warrior's words get to him. Ping's younger sister, Murim, watches the interaction with a knowing and slightly amused smirk. She wonders if her brother's sudden arrival has more to do with Lady Joe than actual alliance business. The tension is broken when a senior warrior from the agency approaches the group. He calls out Dan Hyungwoo's name, and Hyungwoo acknowledges him with his usual calm indifference. This is Hyung Pyo, and he's been ordered by the agency head to train the new porter for an upcoming mission. Seol-yun is stunned. Hyungwoo only just started working, and they're already sending him out on an escort. Hyung Pyo reminds her that a porter's entire job is to travel during escort missions. Seeing an opening, Ping Cheol-yong is thrilled that his rival is being sent away so quickly. When Hyung Pyo tells him they need to move, Hyungwoo makes one thing clear: he isn't handing over his sword. Hyung Pyo is momentarily speechless, surprised that a new recruit would dare to talk back so bluntly. Ping and his companions can't help but laugh at the porter's supposed delusions of grandeur. Murim, however, finds her brother's fixation on a simple porter to be incredibly childish. She notices that Hyungwoo hasn't budged an inch, even under blatant provocation from a high-ranking warrior. Seol-yun watches with a sinking heart as Hyungwoo prepares to follow the senior warrior. Ping assumes the porter is leaving because he's been shamed, dismissing him as nothing special. Unwilling to let him go alone, Seol-yun decides she's going to follow them to see what happens. Hyungwoo knows he can't afford to lose this job, so he has no choice but to comply with the order. Seol-yun watches him go, her worry for his safety only growing as they move away. Later, in a private meeting, the head of the escort agency gives Hyung Pyo his true instructions. He wants Hyungwoo to be taught the basics, but he also has a secret motive for this training. The old man wants to make sure Hyungwoo drops out of the agency before he gets any closer to his niece. Hyung Pyo is confused, wondering why a grown man would need so much special attention from a warrior like him. The agency head just smiles grimly, telling him that he'll understand everything once he starts training him. Hyung Pyo thinks back to Hyungwoo's rough way of speaking, trying to justify it as a result of living in the mountains. He stares at the ornate golden hilt of the sword Hyungwoo refuses to put down. He asks Hyungwoo if he's actually training in some kind of martial art or swordsmanship. Hyungwoo answers simply, telling him that he practices the tri-energy sword art. Hyung Pyo nearly laughs, figuring the porter is just a beginner with big dreams of becoming an escort warrior. He explains that while that art is a decent foundation, it's mostly useless in a real combat situation. He draws his own blade with a flourish, ready to show the rookie what real power looks like. Hyungwoo's eyes narrow as he watches the senior warrior take a combat stance. Hyung Pyo challenges him to show whatever little skill he thinks he possesses with the blade. Hyungwoo asks with total sincerity if the senior warrior is planning to kill him right then and there. Taken aback by the dark question, Hyung Pyo quickly clarifies that it's just a spar to gauge his level. Hyungwoo repeats the suggestion to gauge one another, his voice devoid of any warmth or understanding. He looks down at the senior warrior with an icy gaze, flatly asserting that his own standing is far superior. Hyung Pyo is momentarily speechless, unable to process the sheer arrogance coming from a mountain porter. He breaks into a mocking laugh, pointing out the vast gap between his lifelong training and Hyungwoo's supposed lack of experience. Trying to remain composed, Hyung Pyo offers to demonstrate what real strength looks like through a proper lesson. Hyungwoo ignores the offer, focused entirely on his own hands as he prepares a technique of his own. He contemplates the mechanics of his movement, considering if a slight twist is necessary to dampen the lethal force of his energy. Hyung Pyo watches with growing confusion, wondering what the porter is trying to accomplish with such strange gestures. Hyungwoo clarifies that this is his first time holding back, necessitating a precise mental calculation to avoid a fatal outcome. He synchronizes his breath and energy, carefully tuning his power to a non-lethal frequency. With a chilling calm, he announces that the adjustments are made, and the senior warrior's life is no longer at risk. Hyung Pyo finally understands the hidden meaning behind the agency head's words. The man standing before him is far from ordinary. Shaking off his unease, the senior warrior decides it's time to stop talking and start fighting. He closes the distance in an instant, his blade cutting through the air in a swift, practiced arc. Hyungwoo tracks the movement with ease, seeing every flaw and opening in the senior's technique. To ensure he doesn't accidentally kill his opponent, he decides to redirect the focus of his strike. In a blur of motion, Hyungwoo finally draws his sword, the golden hilt gleaming under the midday sun. The release of his energy is instantaneous and violent, manifesting as a brilliant streak of white light. A colossal pillar of martial energy erupts between the two men, shaking the very foundations of the courtyard. Hyungpyo is caught completely off guard by the sheer scale of the power being unleashed. The atmospheric pressure alone is enough to send the veteran warrior tumbling through the air like a leaf in a storm. He hits the ground hard, the impact knocking the wind out of his lungs as dust clouds rise around him. Clutching his chest and struggling to breathe, Hyungpyo's mind reels from the shock of the encounter. He looks up in a daze, haunted by the realization that no basic tri-energy sword art could ever produce such devastating results. Hyungwoo looks down at the guy he just flattened, casually asking if it hurt. Hyungpyo is sprawled on the ground, still reeling. He wants to know what kind of insane martial art Hyungwoo just used. Hyungwoo keeps it simple, calling the technique Heavenly Thunder. Hyungpyo isn't buying it. There's no way that massive explosion was part of a standard sword art. He's sweating buckets, realizing the sword energy felt like actual lightning coming from the sky. Hyungwoo doesn't try to be humble. He flat out tells him he's just way better. Hyungpyo can only sigh. The guy is a literal god of war with the social awareness of a toddler. He decides he'll deal with reporting this to the boss later. Right now, he's got bigger problems. The first priority is teaching this monster how to act like a human, so he doesn't accidentally level the city. Instead of another spar, Hyungpyo reaches out a hand. Hyungwoo just stares at it, completely lost. Hyungpyo has to explain the basics. When someone's on the ground, you're supposed to help them up. Hyungwoo has a light bulb moment. He grabs Hyungpyo's hand and pulls him to his feet. That night, the agency is quiet, as Hyungwoo ends up staying at Hyungpyo's place. Hyungpyo is tucked in bed, but he's terrified. Hyungwoo is sleeping standing up in the corner with his eyes wide open. The next few days are a crash course in everything. Hyungwoo starts learning how to read and write for the first time in years. But social etiquette is a different story. Hyungwoo starts stripping his clothes off right in the middle of the courtyard. Hyungpyo loses his mind, shouting that you can't just change in public. Hyungwoo doesn't see what the big deal is. He moves on to the pants, sending Hyungpyo into a total panic. While they're causing a scene, a mysterious woman is watching from the shadows. Back at the Alliance, the leader gives this spy her orders to keep a close eye on the Zhou clan. He's suspicious that the escort agency might actually be working with the bandits from the mountain. The spy takes the job, ready to dig up whatever dirt she can find. Back in the present, she watches the chaos. To her, the only suspicious thing here is the guy currently half naked. She keeps a close eye on everything from a safe distance. She notices Seolyun watching too, and figures the lady must have some pretty weird tastes. Seolyun is actually just happy to see Hyungwoo settling in. He finally gets into a proper uniform, looking like an actual member of the agency. Morning arrives, and it's time for the escort mission to finally hit the road. The horses are prepped, and the energy in the courtyard is high. The agency head gives Ma Yuk a final stern reminder to come back in one piece. Ma Yuk salutes from his horse, swearing on the agency's name that they'll finish the job. He gives the order to move out, and the mission officially begins. The heavy carriages rattle as they roll out of the main gates. The other porters watch the caravan leave, knowing the journey ahead won't be easy. Seolyun stands with her people, watching them disappear into the distance. Hyungpyo and Hyungwoo take their places at the back of the line. This is it. Hyungwoo's life as a porter is officially underway. Flashback to a few days ago. The rising dragon corps from the Murim alliance shows up at the Zhou clan estate, demanding an audience with the head of the family. Jo Il-hyun doesn't skip a beat. He lets them right in, playing the part of the polite host while asking after the alliance leader. He gestures for them to make themselves comfortable at the big round table. It's all very civil for now. The leader of the group introduces himself as Ping Qiaoyong. He's known as the Blade Dragon, one half of the elite twin dragons. Il-hyun looks at the other guy and guesses he's the Sword Dragon. Spot on, the warrior confirms his name is Namgung Jin. These aren't just any martial artists, these are top-tier names. Then there's the girl, Ping Muryong. She's Qiaoyong's younger sister, keeping a close eye on the room. The Zhou clan head is impressed. The Ping clan is basically royalty in the martial world of Hebei. He's already playing matchmaker in his head, thinking Muryong would be a perfect fit for his son. He suggests they stick around for a while. A martial exchange would be a great way for his kids to learn from the best. Il-hyun figures that if young people spend enough time together, nature will just take its course. It's a win-win for him. The Alliance warriors play along, bowing and accepting his hospitality. But they aren't here for a vacation. Muryong takes a sip of her tea, her gaze sharp. They've got a job to do. Their actual mission is a sting operation. They need to find proof that the Zhou clan is secretly working with bandits. If the Alliance suspects you, you're in deep trouble. Muryong notices her brother isn't exactly focused on the mission. He's too busy being distracted by a certain lady. Qiaoyong can't take his eyes off Zhou Xiaoyun as she practices in the courtyard. She's definitely got his attention. Xiaoyun is in the zone, moving with her sword like it's second nature. She's good, really good, Chinese letter. Muryong decides to burst his bubble. She tells him Xiaoyun isn't even looking at him. She's been staring at some random porter instead. Chinese letter. Qiaoyong just scoffs. A porter. He's not worried about some nobody, Chinese letter. He hears the guy is leaving for an escort mission anyway. With a few months to himself, he's confident he can win her heart, Chinese letter. Back at the Henan escort agency, the crew is packing up. The mission is about to begin, Chinese letter. They sit down for one last hot meal before hitting the road. A thick, juicy piece of pork belly is the star of the show, Chinese letter. Hyungwoo is locked in. He's not just eating, he's studying that meat like it's a sacred text, Chinese letter. He takes a bite, and for a second, nothing else in the world exists, Chinese letter. He closes his eyes, savoring the flavor. This is what he missed for 10 long years, Chinese letter. To him, cooked food is the most thrilling part of being back in the real world. Moss and raw flesh don't exactly compare, Chinese letter. One of the other escorts watches him, weirded out. He says he's never seen anyone eat like they're performing a religious ritual, Chinese letter. He tells Hyungwoo to fill up while he can. The trip to Sichuan isn't going to be a walk in the park, Chinese letter. Hyungwoo just keeps eating. He's not really listening to the warning, Chinese letter. The guy explains that this mission is high stakes. Their client is none other than the legendary Sichuan Tang clan, Chinese letter. Elder Tang Hogwen himself has shown up to oversee things. You can tell just by looking at him that this guy is bad news, Chinese letter. He's accompanied by Tang Qialgi. The Tang clan doesn't mess around when it comes to their business, Chinese letter. The escort warrior keeps talking, mostly to himself at this point. Hyungwoo is still focused on his bowl, Chinese letter. The Tang clan even brought their own private security. They don't seem to trust the Henan agency to handle everything alone, Chinese letter. Whatever they're carrying in those wagons, it must be worth a fortune. The air around the Tang warriors is heavy with tension, Chinese letter. Hyungwoo doesn't care about treasure. He's just happy he's got another piece of pork, Chinese letter. A butterfly flutters around Elder Tang's head. Most people wouldn't even notice, but he does, Chinese letter. He finds it annoying. He's sensing something else nearby, something far more significant than a bug, Chinese letter. With a casual flick of his fingers, he sends a burst of energy that shreds the butterfly to pieces. Talk about overkill, Chinese letter. He turns his gaze toward the porters, his eyes narrowing, Chinese letter. Qialgi asks what's up, sensing the elder's sudden shift in mood, Chinese letter. Hogwen points out that among the lowly porters, there's someone giving off an energy that definitely doesn't belong. He's looking right at Hyungwoo, Chinese letter. Tang Hogwen narrows his eyes, sensing something is off. He's trying to pinpoint exactly where that strange energy is coming from. Nearby, the porters are taking a quick break. They're completely oblivious to the legendary elder watching them from his carriage. Dan Hyungwoo just sits there with his usual blank expression. He's the last person anyone would suspect of being a powerhouse. The sound of horse hooves thundering against the ground fills the air as the convoy prepares for the long haul. Ma Yuk, the leader of the Henan escort agency, pulls up on his horse. He announces that preparations are finished and they can finally head out. Tang Hogwen watches him from a distance. He's starting to wonder if the energy he felt was coming from Ma Yuk himself. Ma Yuk doesn't waste any time. He orders everyone to move out immediately, emphasizing that the journey ahead is going to be a long one. Hogwen still looks skeptical. He's trying to remember if Ma Yuk's martial presence was always this intimidating. Ma Yuk shouts for the attention of every warrior and porter in the group. He's got some news that isn't going to make them very happy. He drops the bombshell. They're going to cover a 4-month journey in just a month and a half. The Henan agency is all about speed. The porters are stunned. They can barely wrap their heads around the idea of moving that fast with a full cargo load. The unnamed escort warrior warns them that falling behind means getting fired on the spot. Ma Yuk doesn't tolerate slackers. With a final shout, Ma Yuk signals the start of the march. The carts begin to roll. Hyungwoo watches them go, looking genuinely confused. The concept of falling behind just doesn't make sense to someone like him. The convoy kicks up a massive cloud of dust as they speed down the road. This isn't an escort mission, it's a marathon. The porters are already struggling, running full tilt just to keep pace with the horses and carts. Ma Yuk isn't giving them an inch. Hyungwoo keeps pace effortlessly, his mind still stuck on why everyone is so worried about something as simple as running. The unnamed escort warrior is already gasping for air. He tries to encourage Hyungwoo, thinking the new guy must be suffering even more. They keep this brutal pace all day. The agency's reputation for speed is definitely well earned. The sun begins to set, but the march doesn't stop until they've reached their quota for the day. During the night break, the warrior is exhausted. He looks over and sees Hyungwoo just standing there, eyes wide open, and wonders if he ever sleeps. And just like that, Hyungwoo and the escort group push through another day of the relentless march. By some miracle, they reach Pingding Mountain in just 4 days. It's a distance that would normally take 4 times as long. Suddenly, the sound of something cutting through the air echoes across the mountain path. A driver pulls back on the reins, shouting for the convoy to stop as a threat suddenly appears. A heavy spear slams into the ground right in front of them, vibrating with force. It's a clear warning, Chinese letter. Ma Yuk immediately draws his sword. He's been through enough of these to know what's coming next, Chinese letter. He deflects a follow-up attack with ease, his eyes scanning the surrounding trees for the attackers, Chinese letter. He demands to know who's bold enough to block the path of the Henan escort agency, Chinese letter. A voice replies from the tall grass, telling him that they should be the ones asking the questions, Chinese letter. A group of rough-looking men steps out from the shadows. These aren't just common thieves, Chinese letter. The unnamed bandit leader steps forward with a grin. He announces that they've walked right into the territory of the Green Forest Bandits, Chinese letter. Back in the carriage, Tang Hogwen tells his companion to stay put. He wants to see how the escort agency handles these thugs, Chinese letter. The escort warrior whispers to Hyungwoo that it's probably fine. Usually, a simple toll is enough to get them to back off, Chinese letter. Hyungwoo watches them, wondering if these Green Forest guys are any different from the bandits he met before, Chinese letter. Ma Yuk tosses a heavy string of coins toward the bald leader, telling them to take the toll and clear the road, Chinese letter. The bandit leader watches the coins fly through the air with a look of pure disdain, Chinese letter. Instead of catching them, he slashes them out of the air, sending the coins scattering into the dirt, Chinese letter. He makes it clear that he's not interested in pocket change. He wants the entire cargo and he wants the escorts to get lost, Chinese letter. Before anyone can respond, the bald giant lunges into the air, his massive blade raised high, Chinese letter. The escort warrior is caught off guard. He didn't expect them to attack so aggressively right after being offered money, Chinese letter. Hyungwoo watches the bandits' descent. He can feel the killing intent radiating off the man, and it's a feeling he knows all too well, Chinese letter. Ma Yuk strains against the weight of the bandit leader's massive blade. his horse rearing back. The bald giant descends with a roar, his strike carrying bone-crushing force. Ma Yuk takes a heavy kick to the chest, coughing up blood as the impact rattles his bones. He's thrown from his horse, crashing hard into the dirt as the bandit leader lands nearby. The bandit mocks the agency's weakness, laughing at their pathetic attempt at defense. He orders his men to charge, demanding they wipe everyone out and leave no survivors. The escort warriors are overwhelmed by the sudden, organized assault from the surrounding trees. From his carriage, Tang Hogwen realizes these bastards aren't just ordinary mountain bandits. The leader calls them heroes of the Green Forest, dismissing Hogwen as a mere old man. He lunges toward Hogwen, eager to claim what he thinks is a high-value prize. Hogwen calmly notes they would have lived if they were simple thieves, but their greed has sealed their fate. He flicks a needle, which streaks through the air and hits a tree with explosive power. The needle glows with a dangerous purple chi, buried deep in the wood of the target tree. The bandit leader freezes, his eyes filling with sudden, paralyzing terror as he realizes he was the target. He stares at a massive hole in his chest, unable to comprehend how a needle could do such damage. His silhouette is consumed as the internal chi explosion takes hold, ending his life instantly. The remaining bandits halt in their tracks, their morale completely shattered by their leader's end. Hogwen smiles coldly, readying more needles for the remaining thugs who dared to touch the Tang goods. He fires a deadly volley from horseback, the needles whistling through the air with lethal intent. The needles rain down, turning the forest floor into a graveyard for the fleeing bandits. Every projectile finds a mark, piercing through the bandits with surgical precision. The screams of the dying fill the mountain path as Hogwen systematically eliminates the threat. But new figures emerge from the shadows, far more disciplined and dangerous than the bandits. The vile Phantom Hall has arrived, and they have no intention of pulling any punches. Their leader orders his group to finish what the bandits started and leave no one alive. Hogwen warns his men that these newcomers are true masters and the real deal. He commands the elite escorts to protect the cargo, even if every one of them has to fall. The elite guards draw their swords, preparing for a desperate stand against the assassins. The vile Phantom Hall assassins charge with blinding speed and perfect coordination. Steel meets steel as the two elite groups collide in a chaotic whirlwind of blades and blood. Ma Yuk struggles to keep up with the assassins' relentless and precise strikes. Hyungwoo stands motionless amidst the chaos, a silent observer of the unfolding massacre. He observes the crumbling defense, his eyes tracking every movement with eerie calm. A guard is cut down nearby, his blood splashing as the formation begins to break. Ma Yuk watches in horror as his trained warriors are systematically slaughtered by the assassins. Another warrior falls, and the escort leader feels the weight of certain defeat. Hyungwoo's eyes follow an assassin who is moving in to finish off a wounded survivor. The killer raises his blade, intent on claiming another life for the vile Phantom Hall. Hyungwoo recalls a brief moment of kindness from one of the guards who shared his food. His eyes glow with a fierce, unnatural blue light as he prepares to step into the fray. A massive pillar of sword chi erupts from the ground, illuminating the entire mountain woods. The nearest assassin is instantly vaporized by the sheer, overwhelming force of Hyungwoo's strike. The escort warrior stares in shock at the spot where the assassin just stood, now nothing but a memory. The other assassins freeze, their eyes wide with disbelief as they try to process the sudden explosion. The escort leader looks at Hyungwoo, wondering if the young man was truly the one who summoned that heavenly thunder. He urgently shouts for Hyungwoo to help the others who are still fighting for their lives. Hyungwoo replies calmly, stating he only stepped in because the escort was the one who had shown him kindness. The leader is taken aback, begging Hyungwoo to realize that everyone there is part of the same mission. Another escort is brutally slashed across the chest, his cry of pain echoing through the clearing. Nearby, the porters cower in fear, pleading for their lives by claiming they have no martial power. Hyungwoo remains silent for a moment, his gaze shifting to the ongoing slaughter. With a heavy sigh, he relents, deciding that if he's being asked so earnestly, he will intervene. He moves like a blur, his speed far exceeding anything the elite assassins can match. Hyungpyo can only watch in awe as Hyungwoo begins to clear the battlefield with effortless grace. One by one, the vile Phantom Hall assassins are struck down, unable to even see their attacker. Even Tang Hogwen, a master in his own right, is astonished by the sheer power and speed on display. An assassin tries to bargain, promising to spare their lives if they surrender the goods immediately. Hogwen is stunned as Hyungwoo moves past him, so fast he can barely register the movement. Only a master of Hogwen's caliber can even faintly catch the trajectory of Hyungwoo's attack. Hyungwoo stops, deciding that he has done enough to turn the tide of the battle. The clearing is silent, save for the crackling of lingering energy and the heavy breathing of the survivors. He looks up at the sky, his expression once again unreadable and detached from the world around him. News of the vile Phantom Hall's total defeat reaches their mysterious and high-ranking leader. Woo-man Hai, the leader of the vile Phantom Hall, listens with a cold, piercing gaze. A subordinate apologizes, reporting that an unforeseen master had decimated their entire strike force. Her eyes narrow with interest as she declares that she will personally handle this unexpected threat. Woo-man Hai isn't even mad about her men getting wiped out. She's just curious. She decides she'll be the one to personally track down this mysterious martial master. The Woo-man clan. They might not be one of the 5 great clans, but in terms of power, they're second to none. They control a massive chunk of the world's commerce, using their financial muscle to spread influence everywhere. Behind closed doors, a steady stream of secrets from the Sichuan Tang clan has been leaking right into their hands. Woo-man Hwang, the clan head, asks what his spies have dug up. His subordinate reveals that the Tangs have successfully built thunderclap bombs and are moving 5 wagons of them using the Henan escort agency. Hwang is stunned. That manufacturing method was supposed to have vanished centuries ago along with the thunderclap sect. The subordinate explains that the HWA clan head is actually a descendant of that sect, which is how they brought the technology back. With those blueprints back in the world, 5 wagons worth of explosives could wipe out entire sects in an instant. Hwang looks out over his estate, realizing just how much power those bombs represent. He decides then and there that his clan needs those bombs and the manufacturing secrets for themselves. His greed is evident as he crushes the small bird in his grip. But then the subordinate drops some bad news. It turns out Hwang's daughter, Woo-man Hai, heard the whole plan and already left with the vile Phantom Hall. Hwang loses his cool, demanding to know where she went. By now, she's already long gone. She's headed straight for Pingding Mountain, riding hard to get there first. Hai looks focused, ready to intercept the cargo and prove herself. Back at the mountain, the battle is over. Hyungwoo's intervention saved them, but the Henan escort agency paid a heavy price. Almost all the warriors were wiped out. The only ones left are the badly wounded leader, Ma Yuk, and a guy named Hyungpyo. The rest of the group is just a bunch of terrified porters huddled together. Tang Chialgi suggests they should give up on this agency and find someone else to finish the job, but Tang Hogwen shuts that down immediately. The man is confused. Why stick with a broken agency when they have the Elders, Heavenly Thunder, to protect them? Hogwen stops him right there. He admits that the incredible power that just saved them wasn't actually his. He could barely even see what happened, so he knows it was someone else's technique. Tang Chialgi is stunned. If the Elder didn't do it, then who did? Hogwen narrows his eyes, scanning the survivors for the real master. He points directly at the porter carrying the sword, Dan Hyungwoo. He approaches the porter and asks point-blank what sect he's from. Hyungwoo just looks confused. To him, the concept of a sect is totally foreign. In a brief flashback, he remembers his mentor, Chinjija. The man never actually taught them martial arts. He just threw them into a living hell and let them figure it out or die. His skills were forged over years of fighting on the edge of life and death. They're his and his alone. He looks the Elder in the eye and tells him simply, he has no sect. Hogwen is flabbergasted. He can't believe someone with that kind of power doesn't have a formal teacher. Hyungpyo starts panicking, worried that Hyungwoo's bluntness is going to offend the Tang elder. The elder starts to get angry, thinking the kid is just being arrogant and messing with him. Hyungpyo jumps in to save face, claiming Hyungwoo lived alone in the mountains for too long and doesn't know how to speak properly. The elder notices that despite his attitude, Hyungwoo actually seems to listen to Hyungpyo. Hyungpyo whispers to Hyungwoo, begging him to just stay quiet before things get worse. Hogwon turns to Hyungpyo and admits the man has more leadership potential than he expected. He tells him to take over Ma Yuk's position and lead the escort mission to the very end. Hogwon's reasoning is simple. As long as they stay with this group, they have the protection of the one who can use the heavenly thunder. Hyungpyo is completely stunned by the sudden responsibility. The wounded Ma Yuk tells him he's the only one left. He'll head back for help while the rest of them move forward. The rest of the survivors look to Hyungpyo as their new leader for the road ahead. Hyungpyo accepts the weight of the mission, vowing to lead the escort team all the way to Sichuan despite the odds. He knows someone has to take charge, and for better or worse, that someone is him. Tang Hogwon decides they've had enough for one day. They'll rest and set out again tomorrow morning. He's still struggling to wrap his head around the idea that a simple porter could have mastered a legendary skill like heavenly thunder. As the sun dips below the horizon, Hyungpyo tells everyone to get whatever sleep they can. It's going to be a long journey. And so the Henan escort mission moves forward once again, now with Hyungpyo leading from the front. Meanwhile, Ma Yuk is pushing his horse to the limit, desperate to reach the agency and report the ambush. He's worried that no matter how strong Hyungwoo is, they'll all be doomed if more enemies keep coming. They need those reinforcements now. Suddenly, he hears something and glances back into the dark woods. He realizes he's not the only thing moving through the night. Someone else is heading straight for the Henan escort agency. A glint of metal in the moonlight is the only warning he gets. Before he can react, a chain-hook weapon lashes out from the shadows and catches him. The impact is brutal, dragging him right off his horse. He tumbles into the dirt as more hooks fly through the air. From the trees, figures in red and black drop down like ghosts. These are the ghost-masked assassins, the elite killing squad of the blood demon being, and they aren't here for a chat. The lead assassin coldly confirms that Ma Yuk's group is dealt with. Now they've got a new target. He looks toward the distant horizon where the Zhou clan estate sits, unsuspecting. Inside the estate, things are quiet. Chief Steward Sa suggests to Zhou Ilhyun that they should call it a night since the clan head looks exhausted. Ilhyun refuses. He's a firm believer that the more you put off your duties, the harder they become to finish. He leans over his work, his expression serious, but something is off. A single drop of ink falls from his brush, splashing onto the paper. It's a bad omen. Ilhyun's eyes widen as a wave of pure killing intent washes over the room. It's unlike anything he's ever felt before. The ink blot spreads, mirroring the blood that's about to be spilled outside. Outside, the massacre has already begun. A guard barely has time to scream before a blade finds its mark. The estate erupts into chaos as the Zhou clan warriors scramble to defend their home from the sudden ambush. Ilhyun and Sa realize their worst fears are coming true. The enemy is already inside the walls. The ghost-masked assassins swarm the compound with one simple order: leave no one alive. Even the ants must be wiped out. Ilhyun draws his sword, demanding to know who these lunatics are and how they dare attack his clan. He orders Steward Sa to stop right where he is. There's something very wrong here. The steward is confused, but the look on Ilhyun's face tells him everything he needs to know. This isn't just an ordinary raid. Ilhyun senses a level of malevolence that's far beyond what any normal assassin should possess. He knows they're in real trouble. Outside, his men are being slaughtered. The sheer number of attackers is overwhelming their defenses. Ilhyun makes a hard choice. He tells Sa that his place isn't by his side in the battle, but somewhere else. He knows he has to hold them off while his family escapes. Every second counts. Jo Seolyun is startled as her father's men burst into her room, telling her she has to leave immediately. Ilhyun and Steward Sa urge her to hurry and gather her things. There's no time for explanations. The young woman is terrified, crying out for her father as the sounds of battle get closer. The night sky is filled with the orange glow of fire and the desperate screams of those being hunted through the estate. One of the Zhou clan warriors is cut down from behind, his dying scream echoing through the compound. The ghost-masked assassins are relentless, following their orders to kill everyone, including any escort agency members they find. Under the cover of night, a group of riders gallops away from the burning estate, desperate to find safety. Zhou Xiaoyun and the remaining survivors ride through the night, the sound of galloping hooves echoing their desperation. Behind them, the only home they've ever known is being consumed by fire. The Zhou clan estate is a hellish landscape of flames and smoke. The fire has spread with terrifying speed, leaving nothing but destruction in its wake. Xiaoyun looks back in shock, her heart sinking as she realizes the fire hasn't just hit her family's estate, but the Henan escort agency as well. Everything is being wiped out. Chief Steward Sa urges her forward, his voice tight with urgency. He knows they can't stop or the same fate will catch up to them. They have to keep moving. Xiaoyun's eyes fill with tears as she cries out for her father. She can't bear the thought of leaving him behind in that inferno. Steward Sa reminds her of who her father is. Zhou Ilhyun isn't just any man, he's the head of the Zhou clan and Hanan's strongest spearman. He can handle himself. Back at the estate, Zhou Ilhyun is a whirlwind of lethal precision. His spear is a blur as he strikes down any assassin foolish enough to get close. With a powerful shout, he unleashes a devastating attack that clears a path through the enemy ranks. The ground itself seems to tremble from the force of his martial art. He stands tall amidst the wreckage, his presence alone enough to give the attackers pause. In the Zhejiang region, there truly is no one who can match his prowess. The ghost-masked assassins watch him from the shadows, their eyes narrowing behind their masks. They recognize the threat he poses, but they aren't about to back down. Ilhyun's expression is one of grim determination. He knows his life is on the line, but as long as his family is safe, he'll fight until his last breath. The command is given, "Bring me his head." The assassins surge forward in a wave of red and black, their blades glinting in the firelight. Ilhyun meets them head-on. Farther away, Steward Sa is still trying to reason with Xiaoyun. He yells that her father is doing this for her sake, to give her a chance to live. She has to understand. Zhou joins in, telling his sister she has to trust their father. It's the only way any of them will survive this night. Xiaoyun's face is a mask of grief. The steward suggests they find a place to hide and regroup. But Zhou has another idea, one that seems even more dangerous. He looks back at the fire. He tells the others that he and the Rising Dragon Corps will be heading back to the Murim alliance. Ping Qiaoyong is stunned. Is he really suggesting they split up now? Ping Muryong's eyes are hard. He's seen the enemy's martial prowess and knows they can't win on their own. They have to get word to the alliance as fast as possible. Namgung Jin reluctantly agrees. They're being pursued and they need a plan before they're all cornered. The weight of the situation is heavy on all of them. The steward realizes that if the alliance can't help, there's only one other person who might be able to stand against this kind of power. He remembers a certain porter. The image of Dan Hyungwoo easily dispatching the Green Forest bandits flashes through his mind. That incredible display of power at Hyungsan. It's their only hope. With a heavy heart, Sa tells Zhou that they'll find another way. He offers a quick bow of respect, praying for the young man's safety as they part ways. The steward and Xiaoyun watch as Zhou and his men gallop off in the opposite direction. They're on their own now, with only a slim hope to guide them. Sa tells Xiaoyun they need to hurry. Their best bet is to find and join the escort mission group that left for Sichuan. Hyungwoo is with them. Xiaoyun's expression changes to one of grim hope. If they can reach Hyungwoo, they might actually have a way out of this nightmare. But the journey will be long. She whispers a final prayer for her father's safety, the tears still fresh on her cheeks. She knows she might never see him again. Back at the Zhou clan estate, the battle is reaching its bloody climax. The ground is littered with the bodies of those who tried to defend their home. The moon hangs cold and indifferent in the sky. Zhou Ilhyun's robes are soaked in blood, both his and his enemies'. He grips his spear with shaking hands, his strength finally starting to fail him. He snarls at the assassins, demanding to know who they are and why they've brought this slaughter to his home. He's met with nothing but cold, masked stares. A low, chilling laugh echoes through the courtyard. It's a sound that seems to sap the very warmth from the air. The assassins step aside. A dark, hooded figure emerges from the smoke. His eyes glow with a faint, predatory red light. "You want to know the reason before you die?" he asks mockingly. Il-hyun shouts for the stranger to show his face. He won't die without knowing who his killer is. His voice is full of a defiance that refuses to be broken. The figure unleashes a wave of dark, swirling energy that slams into Il-hyun with the force of a tidal wave. It's a power that's far beyond anything human. Il-hyun's eyes widen as he recognizes the dark energy. He gasps, unable to believe what he's seeing. "How are you alive?" he stammers. He starts to say a name, Chia, but the dark energy cuts him off, overwhelming his senses. The name is lost to the wind and the roar of the flames. The hooded figure laughs again, a sound of pure malice. "No," he whispers, "I threw that name away a long time ago." He stands over the fallen clan head. The scene shifts to the aftermath of the attack. The Zhou clan estate is nothing but a pile of smoldering ashes. The magnitude of the destruction is staggering. Void Shadow approaches the blood demon being, reporting that the job is done. He asks where the rest of the assassins have gone. The figure stands with his back to him. Void Shadow is told that the assassins are in pursuit of the final members of the Zhou clan bloodline. They won't stop until the job is finished. He looks confused. "Why?" he asks. The blood demon being turns slightly, a cold grin on his face. "Why I, the blood demon being, trampled on the Zhou clan estate, you mean?" He seems to savor the question. He asks Void Shadow if he knows about his relationship with Chinjija. His eyes glow with a terrifying intensity as he recalls the past. The history here is deep and bloody. Void Shadow's expression is one of sudden realization. He knows the stories of the fierce rivalry that once existed between these two powerful men, rivals whose lives were always on the line. The blood demon being confirms this, stating that they shared a bond that could never be severed. But now, as he looks over the ruins, he notes that he's the only one left, the last of a dying age. Standing amidst the burning ruins, the blood demon being reveals that this very estate was where Chinjija planned to raise 100 masters to oppose him. With a demonic grin, he declares that it's only fitting to begin his conquest here, crushing Chinjija's legacy at its roots. His red eyes flare with murderous intent. He is determined not to let a single member of the Zhou clan bloodline escape alive. The dark forest is silent, save for the sound of the wind through the trees as the hunt continues. Chief Steward Saw looks back in desperation, realizing with horror that the assassins have already closed the gap between them. Joan lags behind, his face pale and covered in sweat as he struggles to maintain his speed on horseback. Sensing the malevolent aura behind them, Joan knows they can't all outrun their pursuers if he doesn't do something. Steward Saw urges him on, unaware that Jo-in is contemplating a desperate sacrifice to save his sister. Jo-in shouts for the steward to focus only on Seol-yun's safety, vowing to catch up after he stalls the enemy. Suddenly, the sound of a whistling chain cuts through the night as a hooked blade is launched from the shadows. The hook sinks deep into Jo-in's back, blood spraying into the air as his selfless cry turns into a scream of agony. Steward Saw and Seol-yun are paralyzed with horror, seeing Jo-in being dragged down by the unseen attackers. Severely wounded, Jo-in is ripped from his saddle and tumbles onto the cold ground as his horse gallops away. Seol-yun's voice breaks as she screams her brother's name, helpless to stop the unfolding tragedy. The ghost-masked assassins swarm over the area, their movements fluid and terrifyingly efficient in the moonlight. One of the assassins leaps through the air with a triumphant cry, his sword aimed at Seol-yun's back. Seol-yun is knocked to the ground, and Seol-yun's scream of terror echoes through the dark trees. In the chaos, the horses bolt or are brought down, leaving the survivors cornered and defenseless. The masked killers surround their prey, their white masks appearing like ghosts against the dark woods. Lying in the dirt, Steward Saw looks up at Seol-yun with eyes filled with deep sorrow and regret. He weeps, his voice a mere whisper, as he laments his inability to fulfill his final promise to protect her. Xiaoyun collapses to her knees, the weight of losing her entire family in a single night crushing her spirit. The lead assassin looms over her, his voice cold as he mockingly praises her for running so far. He raises his blood-red sword, the light of death gleaming on its edge as he prepares to end the Zhou clan bloodline forever. Zhou Xiaoyun breaks down, desperately crying for anyone to save her. A violent surge of white lightning suddenly tears through the dark. The energy slams into the assassin's blade, shattering the steel into fragments. The girl stares in shock at the sudden intervention. Through the blinding light, a figure starts to take shape. Dan Hyungwoo manifests in the center of the crackling aura. He looks directly at her and says he heard her call. Xiaoyun can only look up at him in silence, completely stunned.